Hi there, welcome back to Roving Gardens. Now I'm stood in front of what looks to be a pretty innocuous hedge, and that's because it is. This is an Eleagnus which is flanking a bonfire pit. But if you look closer, you'll see patterns in the foliage that look more like this. Now that's because this is originally a variegated Eleagnus. Now all variegation means is that it has these sort of lighter green patterns flared in amongst the leaves, and that adds some ornamental value. And a lot of our more prized evergreens particularly will be variegated. But what you might find is, if you are growing variegated plants, is that they revert. Now reversion's a really common problem, particularly for evergreens. Now it's not as big a problem here because, as I said, this is a sort of more functional hedge. So this is not grown so much for ornamental interest. But if you are growing a prized bit of topiary or some lovely evergreen plants, and you're very quickly losing your variegation, you might wonder you might want to know what's going on. Now, variegation is very common in evergreens. It does happen in deciduous plants as well, but it's much more easy to identify and sort of stop before it takes over. Variegation happens in most evergreen plants that are variegated. Most commonly though, it's Eleagnus, holly and euonymus. These are the plants that we most commonly grow in our gardens. Now why does that happen? Well, there's a few reasons. The most predominant reason is that it's a cultivated trend that really makes these plants more sellable. And what they've done, they've actually cultivated plants which have a viral defection. So this virus actually gets into the plant and causes this mutation in the genetics of the plant. And it means that when the plant grows, it has these really dramatic spikes in the leaves, sort of light flares, darker flares, and it forms a really nice, unique pattern. And all it is just where the leaf hasn't got as much chlorophyll. But of course, this means that the plant isn't going to be growing as well because it hasn't got as much chlorophyll, hasn't got as much energy, and it doesn't photosynthesize as efficiently as it could. So the plant doesn't really want to grow like this, but we've cultivated it over the years to do this. But really deep down, what the plant wants to do is be lush and green like this, full of chlorophyll, which grows much more efficiently and steadily over time. As soon as that reversion starts, that grows twice as quickly, sometimes 3 times as quickly as that. And very quickly, if you don't get on top of it, your prized variegated plant becomes just very boring green. So it's really important, if you are growing variegated plants, to identify reversion as quickly as it happens. And it can occur just over a season. So you can have a lovely shaped plant and very quickly you'll have a limb or an area of the plant which is reverting. So it's really important that once you identify the reversion, cut it out immediately. And what that will do, it will reset the plant and the regrowth should come back as the initial cultivated variegation that you want. So quite a fascinating detail into why some of our most decorated plants are the way they are and what can happen to them if you leave them and allow them to revert. So just keep an eye on it this season. If you have any variegated plants, just keep an eye on any reversion, and if you see it, immediately remove it if you can.